Morning, friends. We're in day 3, and by now you've probably seen that I've not really touched on any doctrine specific, but rather trying to get to the motive of why we should study the Word and why we should grapple with some, let's call it doctrines or understandings of the Word. We shouldn't shy away of words like theology and words like doctrine. We should actually hold on to it and draw towards it. And I'm just trying to prove a point by just looking at how Paul addresses the situation. And you see, most of Paul's letters are based on truths, on doctrine he gives, like right off the bat. And then he prays for them, and then he goes into application, because he knows that doctrine comes before application. We can only apply something once we really understand it. But I want to focus on how Paul prays for the people, and maybe that will give you some insight on what Paul's heart is when he gives them this information and then gives application. So I'm going to start with this morning with Ephesians chapter 1 from verse 16. Paul just prays for them, and Paul says, "I never stop giving thanks for you as I remember you in my prayers. I pray that God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the glorious Father who gave you the spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of Him. I pray that the perception of your mind may be enlightened, so you may know what is the hope of His calling." You see, Paul is using words like giving you wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of Him. He prays that our perception of our mind should be enlightened, so that we would know the hope of His calling. So this is straight after He's given us quite insightful doctrine, beliefs, understanding, right in Ephesians chapter 1 verse 3 to 15. He gives us some truths, and he prays for us, for our minds to be enlightened, for a spirit of wisdom and of knowledge of Him. And may that help us a little bit to see how Paul prays. He prays not for himself, but he prays for the people, that the Spirit will enlighten them, that God will open their eyes.